Picture this. You've got a highly secure digital bank vault. We're talking reinforced firewalls, complex intrusion detection systems, and armed digital guards patrolling the network perimeter. Pretty safe, right? But what if the thieves just strolled right through the front door with the VIP pass? Well, that is the exact scenario we're tackling today. Why is the application layer a modern digital burglar's absolute favorite target?
The simple answer? It's the ultimate gateway to user data and interactions. Attackers know that if they can successfully exploit the application itself, they can effectively bypass all of those heavy, expensive network perimeter defenses. Honestly, the stakes for this kind of digital heist could not be higher. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the digital heist, application vulnerabilities and defenses. If you've ever found yourself wondering how secure software actually gets compromised, and more importantly, how you can stop it, we're figuring that all out today by exploring the actual mechanics of application vulnerabilities. Let's dive right in.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for stopping a digital heist. 1. The gateway. 2. Memory injection. 3. Buffer overflows. 4. Race conditions. 5. Malicious updates. And finally, 6. The fortress.
All right, let's kick things right off with Section 1, the gateway, which is our application layer.
The core problem we're facing is that the application layer is, essentially, a gateway to user interactions and data. Because of that, vulnerabilities at this level can be especially detrimental. You might be wondering, why is this absolutely crucial? Well, flaws arising from simple coding errors or early design oversights provide attackers with multiple direct avenues for malicious intrusion. It's the front door of our digital vault. If the code running the lock on that door is flimsy, the entire system, no matter how well defended it is everywhere else, is totally compromised.
Moving right along, let's look at our first specific threat in Section 2, memory injection, or, as I like to call it, the inside job.
Now, this attack is incredibly insidious. Memory injection is defined as a technique where an attacker introduces malicious code into a system's memory by exploiting a legitimate running process. Think about that. The attacker doesn't just run their own glaringly obvious malicious executable. Instead, they piggyback on a trusted, legitimate operation that's already happening on your machine. And because this injected code runs entirely within the security context of a process your computer already trusts, it is incredibly difficult for standard security tools to spot. It truly is an inside job.
So, how exactly do we lock this down? We need heavy-duty layered defenses here. Endpoint detection and response, or EDR, is so powerful for this because it actively monitors for unusual behavior, like a totally normal process suddenly hoarding massive amounts of memory. We also use application whitelisting to ensure only pre-approved apps can run. Down at the operating system level, we rely on data execution prevention, or DEP, to block code from running where it absolutely shouldn't, and address space layout randomization, or ASLR. ASLR scrambles exactly where code executes, making it a complete nightmare for attackers to predict where to inject. And finally, user education is key. Phishing is often the crowbar attackers use to start this whole injection process, so well-trained users are your first line of defense.
Okay, leaving the stealthy approach behind, we hit Section 3, buffer overflow, the pure brute force.
If memory injection is a subtle lockpick, a buffer overflow is basically a battering ram. It occurs when a program writes way more data to a buffer, which, remember, is just a temporary data storage area, than it can actually hold. Imagine pouring a whole gallon of water into a standard pint glass. It just spills over, right? Well, in software, this spills over into adjacent memory spaces, completely overwriting whatever was sitting there. This causes highly erratic program behavior, application crashes, and most dangerously, it can allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code. By completely overrunning the system's boundaries, they can achieve a total system compromise.
To stop this kind of brute force attack, we need solid reinforcements. A really fascinating mitigation strategy here is the use of what we call stat canaries. Much like an actual canary in a coal mine, these are small random values placed directly between the buffer and the control data on the stack. If an overflow happens, that canary value gets overwritten first. The system automatically checks this canary, and if it's been altered, boom, it trips the alarm and halts the program before the attacker can execute their code. Beyond that awesome tripwire, rigorous code auditing and secure developer training on bounds checking are essential. We also need to swap out older, unsafe coding functions for modern, secure ones, and make absolutely sure our web and application servers are constantly patched and scanned.
All right, on to our third exploit. Section 4, race conditions, the ultimate sleight of hand.
This vulnerability, it's all about timing, especially in modern multi-threading environments.
A race condition is a situation where software behavior depends entirely on the relative timing of events, like the exact order in which threads are scheduled to run. Think about multiple processes trying to access and modify the exact same shared resource at the exact same time. Without incredibly careful synchronization, it's just chaos. If an attacker can slip their malicious action into the microscopic fraction of time between these events, they win the race and your system loses.
So here's how they actually pull off this trick. Think of it as two distinct moments. First, we have the time of check, or TOC. That's the exact moment a system verifies a condition or state, like checking your file permissions to make sure you're allowed to be there. Then, we have the time of use, or TOU, the moment that resource is actually accessed by the system. The critical vulnerability lives in the tiny gap between those two moments. In a TOCTO race condition, an attacker performs a digital bait and switch. The system checks a legitimate file, says, "Yep, looks good," and in the millisecond before the system actually uses that file, the attacker swaps it out for a malicious one, effortlessly escalating their privileges.
Now we're entering the final room of the heist in Section 5, Malicious Updates, basically a modern-day Trojan horse.
This is where the attacker completely disguises their poison as the cure itself. A malicious update occurs when legitimate software or firmware is replaced with a version containing harmful code, delivered right through a standard, trusted update mechanism. The sheer brilliance and danger here is that users unknowingly do the heavy lifting for the attacker. You think you're just downloading a routine patch to keep your system secure, but no, you're actually installing the malware yourself, handing over sensitive data, or granting them backdoor access.
Let's walk through the exact chronological steps of how an attacker delivers this Trojan horse. Step 1, the attacker either gains control of the actual update server itself, or they intercept your connection using an on-path attack. Step 2, they package their destructive code so it looks exactly like an official routine update prompt. Step 3, the unsuspecting user receives that prompt, completely trusts it, and clicks install. And just like that, the system is compromised, all under the guise of regular maintenance.
So how in the world do we trust our updates anymore? Well, we block these Trojan horses by strictly enforcing secure and authenticated channels for all software delivery. Even more importantly, we absolutely must verify updates using digital signatures. A digital signature acts as an unbreakable cryptographic seal. It proves the update genuinely came from the software provider and hasn't been tampered with while in transit. Couple this with educating users to be highly suspicious of random update prompts from untrusted sources and performing regular security assessments of your update mechanisms, and you can effectively block this threat.
We've surveyed the major threats to the gateway. Now it's time to build our walls in Section 6, the fortress, consolidating our defenses.
Let's bring this all together and map every single digital heist technique we've covered today directly to its specific architectural lock and alarm. For the stealthy memory injection, your go-to defenses are EDR, DEP, ASLR, and application whitelisting. To stop the brute force of a buffer overflow, you need stack canaries, safe functions, and rigorous bounds checking in your code. For the timing tricks of race conditions, strict thread synchronization and control are your best friends. And to block those malicious updates, you absolutely must demand digital signatures and secure channels. Every single threat has a robust countermeasure, provided you design your systems with security in mind from day one.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. In the constant, relentless race between attacker exploits and developer patches, how secure is your code? It's a provocative question, right? Because securing the application layer is never just a one-and-done fix. It requires continuous vigilance, thorough testing, and robust, ongoing risk management. Knowledge really is your best defense here. Keep learning, keep those digital gateways locked tight, and thank you for exploring these critical concepts with me today.